Welcome to Chaurcey Board presents Blessed be the glorious name of the Lord our God forever and ever, and let the whole earth be filled with his glory. Amen and amen. This is an audio version of one of my articles available on my Total Life Insight website. The actual reading of the article is computer generated, so it is not my voice. Enjoy. Yours truly, Chaurcey.
If you desire to read the article instead of listening to this video, please see the link in the description section of the video posting. About abortions. Last update, October 4, 2024. Note, this sets forth my personal view of the abortion issue as of the date of last update. This view is rooted in my belief that human life begins at conception and that baby's life should be saved except in the case of a severely abnormal pregnancy. Summary: indeed we are called to liberty, free will, but let none use or advocate or condone the use of that liberty as an occasion to the flesh. Galatians 5:13. Abortion should be prohibited except for 1. Rape under limited conditions, 2. Incest under limited conditions, 3. Severe threat to end the physical life of the mother. This does not include mental/psychological, emotional, age, or socio-economic life factors. 4. Severe threat to functionality of a major bodily organ of the mother, and 5. A severely deformed baby that life is not reasonably expected to continue outside the womb. Definition of abortion: an intentional act to cause the death of a baby in the womb or to severely injure the baby so as to necessitate an abortive action. Acts to increase the probability of a live birth or to remove a dead or dying fetus or an ectopic, implantation and growth outside the uterus abnormality. Pregnancy shall not be deemed an abortion for purposes of illegal acts. Key biblical concept for Christians, and others, regarding the abortion issue. In Exodus 11:1-6, God says that the firstborn of every Egyptian will be killed at midnight. Yet, not a child of the children of Israel will be touched. Exodus 11:7. Similarly, in Numbers 31:17 with respect to avenging the children of Israel regarding their enemy the Midianites, Numbers 31:1-2, Moses instructs the killing of male children, males of the little ones, and non-virgin women. In 2 Samuel 12:13-14 God kills David and Bathsheba, child of adultery. Note that God permits humans to kill babies of their enemies but not of Israel. Of course, God gives himself the authority to kill children of Israel. This means that under certain circumstances God permits killing of children. With respect to Exodus 11 and Numbers 31 cited above, that occurred before Christ and the New Covenant. We know that God's standard before Christ differs from God's standard under Christ. Both standards are to be considered righteous. However, God has determined to replace the old way with the new way. The new way is to love your enemies, not hate them so as to kill them, but rather to extend adequate grace to them. Therefore, it is reasonable to conclude that according to God's current standard under the New Covenant, people who commit rape and incest are not to be considered enemies to the extent that innocent babies they produce should be killed. This means the provisions of Exodus 11 and Numbers 31 cited above do not apply to the issue of abortion. The Bible holds the life of the baby in the womb precious to the point that if a man strikes the woman and causes harm or death to the baby, corresponding punishment even unto death shall be given to the man. Exodus 21:22-23, 24-25, who causes the baby's injury or even death. I do not advocate for or support physical harm to anyone getting an abortion or anyone supporting an abortion, including medical and legal authorities. Be mindful that inclusion herein of the Exodus 21 reference is in no way intended to be used by a private citizen to advocate for or cause physical harm to an abortionist unless such provisions are established as the law of the land through proper process at the state and or national level. The abortion issue requires us to decide under what conditions do we as a nation/society want to allow the killing of children, and at what point in the existence of a child we want to allow killing of a child, if any. Herein I will use the terminology abnormal pregnancy for conditions under which an abortion might be allowed. The following abnormal pregnancies are defined for which we as a nation must decide if they are sufficient reason for abortion. Rape. Incest. Threat to end mother's physical life as a self-defense measure. Threat to severely damage one or more functions of the mother's major bodily organs as a self-defense measure. Threat of a severely deformed baby not reasonably expected to live outside the womb even if available medical technology is used. So then the questions before us are: do we as a society consider rape and incest valid reasons for an abortion, and if so, at what point in the pregnancy do we no longer consider rape and incest a valid reason for abortion? Do we consider a pregnancy that threatens to end the physical life of the woman sufficient reason for an abortion? Note I said physical life. Social, age, financial/economic, emotional, mental/psychological and other factors not of a physical life nature do not qualify for abortion consideration. Do we consider a pregnancy that threatens the functionality of a major bodily organ of the woman sufficient reason for an abortion? And if so, what are those major bodily organs and their functionality? Do we consider a pregnancy that threatens to result in a severely deformed baby not likely to live outside the womb even with available technology sufficient reason for an abortion? And if so, what do we define as a severe deformity? For each of those items, what is the earliest and latest at which a decision for an abortion should be made? An abortionist and participating parent, in the absence of a clear and compelling properly validated godly reason for the abortion, harms unto death the baby in the womb. Psychological and socio-economic reasons are not godly valid reasons. If the parents do not possess the finances including insurance to sufficiently care for the baby, then the government should cover the cost or adoption should be considered. In other words, money shall not be a factor. The "It's my body" slogan is pure selfish, spiritually and intellectually dishonest evil. As Jesus says unto the woman caught in the act of adultery, "Neither do I condemn you, but go and sin no more." That includes repenting from supporting non-life-threatening "it's my body" attitude-based abortions. Parental and legal guardian involvement requirement. If the pregnant woman is less than 18 years of age or is otherwise legally incompetent, then a parent or legal guardian shall be required to sign off on an abortion. This provision shall not apply to emancipated minors who are otherwise legally competent. This provision shall not apply in the case of a medical emergency. The matter may be brought before the court for decision when parental or guardian competence in this matter is questionable. Arbitrary abortions should be legally forbidden in our laws, as all law should be righteous, Romans 13, 1-7. Such abortions, like all sin, is worthy/important to repent from, being mindful of God's offer of forgiveness, Matthew 3, 8-10, 1 John 1, 9. In the case of abortions occurring due to conception during biblical fornication or adultery, that is adding sin to sin, the biblical husband/male is the head of the wife/female principle certainly disallows the government, or any person or group, position that the woman is the sole determiner of non-life-threatening abortions. I support abortions only for the abnormal pregnancy conditions listed above. Under the principle that a person who commits rape and/or incest may be designated an enemy of the nation/society, Exodus 11, 1-7, Exodus 31, 17, Deuteronomy 22, 25-27, rape and incest may be morally deemed a sufficient reason to take an innocent baby's life if the female so chooses under the limited conditions set below. Moreover, the female should be made aware there are those who may be willing to adopt the baby. For rape and incest abortions, a framework for limited conditions are set below based on the 2019 fetal development chart available here, as taken from the Virginia Department of Health website. I define minors as persons less than 18 years of age. For both adult and minor, rape must be reasonably legally affirmed prior to the 6th week of pregnancy. For both adult and minor, incest must be reasonably legally affirmed prior to the 6th week of pregnancy. With respect to rape and incest, a sufficient measure of proof is to be required, since a woman could claim rape by an unknown person when in fact there has been consensual sex with an unrevealed person. A person is less likely to claim incest if incest has not occurred. A sufficient measure of proof shall also be required for incest cases. D. With respect to incest and rape, reportedly a DNA test while still pregnant could be used as early as 8 to 10 weeks to validate a claim. This is greater than the 6th week standard given above. Therefore, the DNA test may be used for prosecution purposes. However, it may not be used to approve abortions for pregnancies simply based on rape and incest that have achieved the 6th week's milestone. If technology advances so as a DNA test can be done prior to the 6th week, then that DNA test may be used to validate a rape and/or incestuous act has occurred. With respect to self-defense measures, this applies if there is reasonable medical expectation that the baby can be neither birthed nor otherwise safely removed alive without causing loss of mother's physical life or severe damage to mother's physical health so as to substantially impair a major bodily function through physical disorder, illness, or injury, example causing her to be permanently bedridden. With respect to baby deformity, this applies if the baby body is so severely damaged and unrepairable that the baby should not be expected to naturally live outside the womb once the umbilical cord is severed and medical technology is not advanced so as to be reasonably expected to sufficiently correct the damage. If the parents do not possess the finances including insurance for such medical technology, then the government should cover the cost. In other words, money shall not be a factor. Again, the woman's doctor should be able to determine if an abortion is needed to save the physical life of the mother. However, determination of whether abortion is needed to avoid major bodily injury should be determined by a state-approved medical board before an abortion is authorized. State legislatures should not be constitutionally prevented from regulating abortions, especially given the rapid changing in medical technologies that aid in maximizing both the mother and baby health. Abortions should take place in a government-regulated hospital or government-regulated emergency center, not in an abortion specialty clinic, which means abortion specialty clinics should not exist. Abortions should not take place in physician's office or clinic, or freestanding birthing centers or other facilities not serving as general-purpose hospitals and emergency centers. Human life begins at conception. A new creation exists when the sperm meets the egg, at least at the moment a pregnancy is detectable. Conception establishes the existence of a baby child regardless of the technical/medical/scientific terms assigned during various stages of the baby child's development. This is clearly set forth in Psalm 139:16, which says, "Thine eyes did see my substance, yet being unperfect, and in thy book all my members were written, which in continuance were fashioned, when as yet there was none of them." Here substance refers to the body, unperfect to embryonic stage of development, members to body parts such as arms and legs, and continuance to the progressive development after conception. Note that God recorded the existence of the human before even one recognizable human body part, member, was formed. With regards to the abortion issue, a baby is totally innocent and therefore is to be protected from others. A baby is not the property of the parents to be done with as they please, Galatians 5:13. One of the important tasks of government is to protect the weak against the strong through equitable opportunity. The person in the womb deserves that protection. There are those that say if arbitrary abortions are illegalized, then mothers will turn to backroom dangerous abortion places or methods to obtain abortions and risk the mother dying from unsafe abortive acts. Well, to them I ask, do we decriminalize a person's use of illegal drugs such as cocaine for non-medical purposes because some overdose on such drugs in backrooms or other secret places? Do we provide a safe place for people to use cocaine to get high and have doctors there in case they overdose? Of course not. Abortion is no different. With respect to abortion as a part of healthcare benefits, healthcare is about saving lives, not taking lives. Any healthcare policy should be rooted in the saving lives principle. What about those who wanted to have a good time but did not intend to get pregnant, no matter the age? Well, those who voluntarily have sex that results in pregnancy should press through the pleasure pain of raising a child just as they pressed through the pleasure and maybe also pain of that sexual encounter. Families and churches should be bold enough to preach/teach accountability and responsibility. Society should hold them to such. The following Roe v. Wade specific information was written in 2016 prior to the June 24, 2022 rightful overturn of Roe v. Wade. I include it for historical reasons. Begin pre-Roe v. Wade overturn. Generally, in the United States legal community, including the Supreme Court, there is what is called Roe's three-part essential holding in reference to Roe v. Wade 1973 U.S. Supreme Court decision. First, a woman has the right to choose to have an abortion before fetal viability and to obtain it without undue interference from the state. Second, the state has the power to restrict abortions after viability, if the law contains exceptions for pregnancies endangering the woman's life or health. And third, the state has legitimate interests from the pregnancy's outset in protecting the health of the woman and the life of the human fetus, not a dog or cat, etc., that becomes a child with visible human form/attributes if allowed to live. First, observe that Roe v. Wade does not deal with nature's abortive results such as miscarriages or unintentional abortive results on the part of the mother. These are sometimes called spontaneous abortions. Roe v. Wade is about person A knowingly and intentionally causing the abortion of a child in the body of person B. I don't even think self-abortions are legal under Roe v. Wade. Assuming that there is agreement on the definition of viability, the second and third essential holdings are consistent with godly principles relating to the abortion issues provided life and health refers to physical life and physical health of the mother and viability is properly determined. This is due to the right to self-defense. Indeed, psychological/mental, emotional, age, and socio-economic life/health are not sufficient reasons for allowing abortion as these do not qualify as physical life/health factors. Rape and incest are exceptions to the physical life/health requirement. Furthermore, viability must be defined as the ability of the baby to live outside the womb, and that determination of ability is at a minimum made by more than one independent medical authorities under normal circumstances. Moreover, if the baby can be birthed naturally or otherwise removed through C-section or other means, and there should be reasonable medical expectation that the baby will survive even if medical technology is initially needed to assist the baby's outside the womb development, then the baby shall be deemed to have viability. This provision does not apply if there is reasonable medical expectation that the baby can be neither birthed nor otherwise safely removed without causing loss of mother's physical life or severe damage to mother's physical health, example causing her to be permanently bedridden. Bedridden gives me pause given that paralyzed people live, but still it is something that law should leave up to the mother, I believe. However, the first essential holding is in direct violation of a number of godly/biblical principles. The first essential holding confers more rights to a woman than God confers upon her. Indeed, it violates the first principle of family, which is that man is the head of woman, husband is the head of wife. Thus, the first holding essentially says the father of the child has no say whatsoever over the abortion, even in the absence of any compelling medical reason. In other words, the first holding says if the woman does not want the baby, then she may dispose of it, and it is her decision and her decision alone. This is unsound doctrine and is a case where a little leaven leavens the whole lump of family destruction and societal decay into moral depravity. A little sin grows however slowly or however quickly into greater and greater sin in our individual and collective lives. Yes, it is the woman's body holding the baby. But the man helped put the baby there. More importantly, it is the baby's body that society should protect against selfish adults and even non-adults. The argument that it's the woman's body and so she should be able to do with it what she wants lacks spiritual, intellectual, and legal integrity concerning pregnancy. Of course, to abortionists and supporters, the unborn is not seemingly human enough or not human at all. The first essential holding also inherently discards the recognition that sinfulness of humanity will cause some to abort a baby out of convenience and selfishness. This is the same convenience and selfishness-based sin that causes a man to rob and kill another person for money. There is no moral difference. Therefore, the first so-called essential holding is morally evil and is not essential to a proper basis for abortion. End pre-Roe v. Wade overturn. Abortion is a medical procedure, certainly. but at its core it is a moral, psychological, and socio-economic issue. The only time an abortion should be considered is when the physical life or physical health of the mother is clearly in severe danger, as that would be a case of self-defense. But statistics show that most abortions are rooted in adult conflict and/or money issues. Neither adult conflict or lack of money are righteous or even natural reasons to abort, they are satanic/evil reasons. Humans and governments find money to do everything else they should do, so let it be for the babies in the womb. Let faith in God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob and Jesus' name prevail over fear of lack. It is intuitively obvious as to the reason people get abortions. Most of those reasons are selfish. The morning after pill recognizes that truth. Some say that even in a self-defense claim the woman should have the faith to not abort. For me it is not a question of faith but a question of self-defense and good old-fashioned common sense. It is the same common sense that Jesus used against the devil in Matthew 4:5-7 when the devil asked Jesus to jump off the pinnacle because Jesus knows God will send angels to catch him. But Jesus said to him, "Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God." But if the mother wanted to risk her life to save the baby, then I hold as a general rule she should be able to in law, and the law should not force her to abort the baby. The reason is self-defense is always a personal choice, as it directly affects one's own life against harm by a guilty party, though unintentional guilt in this case. On the other hand, arbitrary abortions directly affects an innocent baby's life. In conclusion, the following moral principles should be core basis for all legal and moral decisions regarding the issue of abortion. It is godly reasonable to take another person's life if one's physical life or physical health is severely threatened. Therefore, aborting a baby is justifiable as a last resort when the mother's physical life or physical health is severely threatened, as determined by one or both of the parents and at least 2 duly authorized and independent medical doctors that specialize in the mother's medical ailment. In the case of an emergency room incident, or equivalent incident, only one such doctor is required when the mother's physical life or physical health is clearly in severe danger and time is of the essence, such that there is no time to obtain an independent doctor's diagnosis. If the mother is a minor, i.e., under 18 years of age, then one or both parents or legal guardian of the minor shall make all required decisions on behalf of the minor. This principle extends to a minor who is the father. This is because godly principles establish that minors are responsibility of parents and are not sufficiently mature to make such major decisions. Minors have no privacy rights as long as they are minors. The aforementioned emergency circumstances shall apply to minors also. The above condition is the only condition in which abortion should be legalized. No other abortions are morally justifiable and therefore should not be legally sanctioned. There are people who would adopt the child if unwanted by both parents. Laws should protect the unborn against arbitrary abortions, since human sinfulness/weakness will lead many to abort unwanted babies. This is true of even those who are Christians. I did a study on abortion in which I looked at both pro-choice, www.prochoice.org, and pro-life, www.nrlc.org, references. An objective analysis of both pro-choice and pro-life given reasons for abortion will bring you to the same conclusion. Indeed, aborting for monetary purpose is selfish and frivolous, although pro-choice don't see it as such. Most abortions are not because the mother's life is physically in danger. They simply don't want to deal with the child and/or child's father. It is just common sense that this is the predominant reason. These sources are listed in the references section below. An interesting historical fact sheet may be found at National Right to Life article, Reasons People Get Abortions. For 2015, according to the CDC, abortions by non-Hispanic white women and non-Hispanic black women were 36.9% and 36%, respectively. For 2021, according to the CDC, abortions by non-Hispanic white women, non-Hispanic black women, Hispanic women, and non-Hispanic women otherwise were 30.2%, 41.5%, 21.8% and 6.5%, respectively. Thus, overall there is statistical equity between whites and blacks in general. However, For 2015, when we look at the critical transitional ages of 15 to 44 years old, statistical inequity arises as for that age group we have non-Hispanic white women having 6.8 abortions per 1,000 live births and non-Hispanic black women having 25.1 abortions per live birth. So it seems at the more stable mature ages of 45 plus white and black women abort at a statistically equitable rate. However, it is problematic that at the lower vulnerable ages, there is a 4-factor statistical inequity. The reference section contains a number of links to external government and non-government resources on abortions. Also, periodically I update the written article to reflect ongoing governmental and non-governmental activity regarding abortions.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the lesson and found it enlightening. If you have any questions or comments, please contact me at chaurceyboard.com. That's ChaurceyBoyd.com. God bless. Goodbye.